Rink Live Vancouver. Pre-game, post-game, every game presented by Bodog. From sports odds to free casino games, make a play at bodog.net. Wadden and JPat back once again with another edition of the pregame show as we're heading down to Arizona State University. JPat to the Mullett, the Canucks and the Coyotes for the first time from the desert this year.
Yeah, it's a big day in college sports. March Madness underway. Of course, this isn't really March Madness necessarily, but hey, it's a 4-point game in the NHL standings. The Canucks 2 points ahead of the Arizona Coyotes as they make their first trip of the season to Mullett Arena. Only Edmonton, the only other team in the NHL that has yet to set foot inside the smallest building in the National Hockey League. So Canucks will be there again on April 13th for Game 82. They're going to wrap their regular season there. But first look at the cozy confines of the Mullett tonight.
Let's get to the lineup change. It's presented by Delaney's OK Tire out there on Fraser Highway in Langley. Who's getting the start and goal, and do we expect any changes up front?
Doesn't look like it. Rick Tocchet's going to stick with a winning lineup that's produced 5 straight victories, trying to make it 6 in a row when they take on the Coyotes tonight. Of course, the Canucks beat the Coyotes, needed overtime and a power play in overtime back in December in their first meeting, beat them 3-2 that night. So we'll see if they can get it done again here tonight. With Thatcher Demko in goal, pretty good chance the way that he has been playing. Kind of thought this might be a Call of Delia start. It's a compressed schedule here. They've got 3 and 4 nights, and then when they come back off the road, they've got the Vegas Golden Knights. Kind of felt like maybe an opportunity to get the back up a game, but it is going to be Thatcher Demko. It's going to be the same 18 skaters in front of Thatcher Demko, but they did have an option to insert Aidan McDonough. He has joined the team after turning pro and signing his contract, took part in the morning skate. He's going to wear number 25 whenever he plays for the Vancouver Canucks, but it won't be tonight. Aidan McDonough will get a first-hand look at the Vancouver Canucks there in person, but not in the lineup.
As you mentioned, the Canucks looking for a 6th straight W, but this recent play, they've been getting leads early on.
They have, and that's been one of the keys, I think, to their success here. They've trailed once in the 5-game win streak, and that was 1-0 at home against Anaheim the other night, and they erased that deficit and went on to win in overtime that night 3-2 over the Ducks. So it changes everything. It takes the pressure off. Not that there's a ton of pressure on them right now, but early in the season, if you fell behind, the goaltenders knew that they couldn't afford to allow that next one, and unfortunately, too often, they still did. But you get up, you give yourself a little bit of a cushion, some room to work, and I just think it does take the pressure off. So the Canucks have been doing a nice job getting out in front and then extending those leads as they did in the 5-2 win over both Ottawa on Saturday and Dallas the other night.
Speaking of taking the pressure off, the bottom depth guys of the forward group have really been taking the pressure off the big boys.
They have, and the big boy's still coming through, but all of a sudden you're starting to see Nils Amon has emerged here, 5 points in his last 5 games. I'm not sure that I saw that coming, especially earlier in the season when he was really struggling to kind of find his offensive way. Dakota Joshua, I think, has played some really good hockey here of late. Phil DiGiuseppe got the contract extension, went out and celebrated by scoring the other night against the Dallas Stars. So it's not just the top end guys. You want them to continue to produce, and we're going to keep watching Elias Pettersson and his push for 100 points. Maybe tonight's a big night. He can feast on the Coyotes. We'll see about that, but it's going to be interesting to see. And I do wonder if some of those guys a little lower in the lineup, they see a player like Aidan McDonough now on the scene, and they recognize the Canucks are going to plug him in at some point. You don't want it's like musical chairs. You don't want to be without a chair when the music stops. So I think these guys are continuing to push the pace pretty hard here at the bottom of the lineup, and it goes to the defensemen as well. Everybody's stepping up, pulling on the rope in the right direction here, and as a result, the Canucks have won 5 in a row.
Rick Tocchet, a bit of a homecoming for him. The players want to win one for the Gipper tonight.
And the Gipper probably just wants to see this structure that he has instilled here and have them play the way that they've been playing of late. But yeah, I mean, Rick Tocchet, 290 games behind the bench of the Arizona Coyotes. Of course, that was out in Glendale at Gila River Arena. And then 2 of those seasons were parts of COVID, the year that COVID struck and cut the season short in the bubble. And then, of course, the next year when everybody stuck to their own divisions. That was it for him behind the bench, the Arizona Coyotes. So, yeah, I'm sure that it'll bring some memories back. He'll probably be saluted, I would think, by the Coyotes. And but he's on the other side tonight. And job number 1 for Rick Tocchet is trying to get another victory to run the win streak to 6.
Let's take a look at those Desert Dogs now, who are coming off a big victory in overtime over the Flames.
Yeah, and they're playing well. And they got outshot badly, but that happens a fair bit to Arizona. There's no quit in this group. And as I mentioned, they're just 2 points behind the Vancouver Canucks. Again, at the outset of the season, if you had told me that this deep into the season, the middle of March, and the Canucks and the Coyotes were neck and neck, either I would have thought that Arizona had an incredible season or the bottom would have fallen out on the Canucks. And as we know, it's kind of in the latter there. So, we could make jokes about the size of the arena and the fact that, again, the future of the franchise is still a little uncertain, but they play hard. They do play hard, and I'm sure that the Vancouver Canucks will get a sense of that tonight.
And not only that, they love playing at the Mullett as well.
Yeah, 4 straight victories there. So they have found a way to kind of turn this into a positive for all the laughter on the outside and the finger pointing at the outset when we all learned that they were going to play on a college campus. They've won 4 in a row. 18 of their 25 victories this season have come on home ice. They've been a disaster away from home. And remember, they started the season on a 14-game road trip. 20 of the first 24 were away as they continued to work on the Mullett. But they have settled in. And so 18 of their 25 wins on home ice. May not be the loudest building in the world because they only put 4,600 in there, and it's spring break. There'll probably be some Canuck fans in attendance, I would imagine. Whatever the case, Coyotes, they mean business at the Mullett. So, again, they'll put up a fight against the Canucks tonight.
He was their lone all-star, but Clayton Keller, he can be a handful for the opposition.
This is wild, and I know we'll get to the stat that stands out, but this is another one. This isn't the one I'll go with, but Clayton Keller has 71 points. Like, you think about the Arizona Coyotes, offensively challenged, not a lot of support. He's got 71 points. He is second in NHL scoring since the All-Star break, behind only Connor McDavid. Like, that's the statistic that absolutely stands out. And the Coyotes, without Nick Schmaltz for a 3rd straight game, he's their 2nd leading scorer. So keep this in mind as the puck drops tonight. Clayton Keller has 71 points. The 2nd highest scorer in the Coyotes lineup tonight, 34 points behind, is Lawson Crouse with 37 points. So Keller's almost twice as many as the next highest scorer on his hockey club in the lineup tonight. This guy's just getting it done. He's been on an absolute tear. He's got 12 points in his last 6 games. So, yes, the Canucks better keep an eye on the left winger on the top line of the Arizona Coyotes.
Coyotes have a lot of former All-Stars on the team. However, they're all in LTIR. Not a lot of familiar All-Stars, or players, that is, on this Coyotes team.
Yeah, and so when you look at their defense core particularly, we talk about Clayton Keller. He is a star in the making in the National Hockey League, and more people probably should be talking about him. People aren't talking about this defense core, and part of that is because at the trade deadline, they traded away Jacob Chychrun, they traded away Shane Gostisbehere, they even threw in former Canuck Troy Stetcher, who's now in Calgary, and so it's been this makeover on the back end. The other night against the Flames, Juuso Välimäki, a former Flame, played over 24 minutes, as did J.J. Moser. So you're talking about leaning on 2 guys that don't have huge profiles in the National Hockey League. But try this one. Michael Kesselring, I think I got that right, Kesselring, was a guy that they picked up from the Edmonton Oilers at the trade deadline in the Nick Bjugstad deal. He's played 2 NHL games. The other night, he played 21 minutes. So an unheralded defense core. Victor Soderstrom, he was the guy that was taken 1 pick behind Vasily Podkolzin in the 2019 draft in Vancouver. So you'll have a couple of guys that went relatively high in that draft going head-to-head. But again, Soderstrom, young defenseman. They've got high hopes for him, but doesn't have a huge body of work in the National Hockey League. Whatever the case, this is a patchwork defense. Canucks have been going with a patchwork defense as well. They're showing that you can get by. And these Coyotes, somehow, some way, are finding ways to pick up points here after the trade deadline.
Let's get to the stat that stands out. It's presented by Jason Hominick at Jason.Mortgage.
Yeah, the stat that stands out to me, again, you go back to the Mullett, the Canucks' first look at this arena that can hold 4,600. So you do the math here. On the season, the Arizona Coyotes, and they have packed this place. They had trouble packing their old arena, but they have packed this one. 147,200. That is the total attendance for the Coyotes. Under 150,000 fans. The Montreal Canadiens at the top of the NHL list. They got one of the biggest buildings in the NHL, the Bell Center. 716,000 have passed through the turnstiles. Do they have turnstiles? I guess they scan tickets these days. Yeah. 716,000 have seen games at the Bell Center this year. 147,000 at Mullett Arena. So they'll add to that total, but only by 4,600 with this game against the Canucks tonight. That's my stat that stands out. A presentation of Jason Hominick at Jason.Mortgage.
Time now for my Bodog Best Bet. I've been really good as of late. Won the people some money last game. Hoping to do this again. And honestly, I don't go to puck lines very often in the season, but I love this one. Delicious for the Canucks. Minus a goal and a half at plus 170. Run to Bodog right now and place that bet. I got the Canucks to win by 2 or more.
All right. Took them to overtime. Only got the single-digit victory, but it was a win. We'll see if they can stretch their lead here. We got to get a lead first and foremost, but all right, they're playing well, but so are the Coyotes. And again, at this stage of the season, who knows? But there are draft lottery ramifications to this hockey game, so I'm not sure that that's going to, be the impetus to spark both of these hockey clubs. But we'll see what happens. And the way the Canucks are going, wouldn't be surprised if they are able to push that win streak to 6 tonight.
All right, if they are going to push it to 6 tonight, then this person is going to have to do something. Who you got tonight?
I'm looking at Connor Garland, the former Coyote. We talked about Rick Tocchet. Now, Tocchet hasn't been back in an official NHL capacity. Garland's been back to Arizona since the trade, but this will be his first look at Mullett Arena. Of course, the 3 seasons that he spent as a Coyote broke into the National Hockey League with the organization. All of those games played out in Glendale. So this will be a new experience for him. Scoring a goal would be a new experience for him as well. He's got 9 since a late game goal in Nashville a couple of weeks back. Remember, they were down 2. Garland got them within 1, and then Kuzmenko was able to tie it. They lost that game in a shootout to the Predators. Now, I'm not suggesting that Connor Garland hasn't been productive. He had a couple of assists the other night. He's been chipping in. He's on that line right now with Nils Amon and Dakota Joshua, and they're playing well and creating an awful lot. But at the end of the day, you'd like to see him pull the trigger. He's sitting on a dozen goals with 16 games remaining in his schedule. So we'll see if he can get one to avoid the drought reaching double digits. Connor Garland, the former Coyote, is my do-something guy for the Canucks tonight.
Well, the Canucks will try to have all business on the ice so they can have a party during the postgame. This has been another edition of the Rink Wide Vancouver podcast presented by Bodog. For Jeff Patterson, I'm Andrew Wadden. Remember, Rink Wide is the show that always scores.